Hello, my name is Marcus Emmerich, and today I'm going to read you a story that I wrote. Since it's Halloween, figure some props are in order. This is called City of Shadows. Most people think that they can find magic somewhere out beyond their own town, where the sands have blown over ancient ideas and forgotten practices, or where the ivy has grown to cover ancient ivory towers that hold arcane knowledge. It's not there. It's within concrete and iron, under black pools of roads, and it's in the dark lit alley. Magic can find its way anywhere, but why hide it under sand when it could be safe underfoot? We hear it all the time, the kid crying because of the boogeyman under his bed. It's within those moments that the magic of a child's wish keeps him from being devoured. Little do they know of how close they come to being completely taken into darkness. There are some that are not so fortunate. There are kids that don't wish in time, or simply are told that they don't exist and are forced back into bed. Those are the ones that go missing, forced to work for that dark matter in between floor and bed. Can it be touched and measured? No, it can't, but it can be felt and known. These things go on whether you believe it or not. These things have existed in cities long before Rome fell and Samaria rose, in the dark crevices and poorly lit places. But it's not always so dark and evil. There is magic that can keep the darkness at bay and bring it healing and love to the cities. But I'm afraid that magic is dwindling under canopy skies. It's being blocked out by Babel towers trying to touch the heavens. Magic of light needs the warmth of nature and the twilight of distant suns. So in the city, we have to play by their rules. We have to use blood and darkness with light and love, all in the name of keeping the darkness out and the boogeyman. I was raised on these streets. Being the son of an old drunk, I found myself wandering the dark jungle at nights. It was as if I was a great explorer, and I was in search of an amazing adventure, lost between yellow parallel lines that led me to a dark Oz, always in search of a great wizard to teach me his ways. But he always turned out to be smoke and mirrors, just an old Crowley attempting to find ways to have sex without guilt, sad ideas of potential wasted on animalistic tendencies. Though they do have power, it's often misleading to something twisted, but still power. Though one fateful night I found myself wandering down a street I must have been down 1,000 times, and out of the corner of my eye I see a bookshop hidden between two buildings. It must have been there before, though I can never recall myself ever seeing it. It was dark and forbidding, though at the same time it wanted me, needing me. So I crept closer just to peer inside, and I see books. Not just any books, but the books you hear about in hushed circles. The type of books that they look like they could be keeping the darkest secrets and the lost truths. I gathered all my strength and I wandered inside. There was no shopkeeper, only the buzzing of fluorescent lamps and the smell of old paper. The books were lined up in no order that I could make out, though some pattern could be seen. It was glorious in all its knowledge, occult books from wall to wall, all waiting for me to pluck and learn. I didn't know where to begin, for that matter where to end. I could live here and never leave, just sit and read. As I was thinking about the amazing spells and incantations to make me the great adept of huge fame, a back door opened, and a man walked out to the front desk. He was tall and had long hair, and a great beard, both blacker than midnight, and his eyes were as white as the city's snow. I was in fear and awe at the same time. I didn't know whether to run or to worship him. Here was a man who, by his very eyes, could see the world for what it truly is. And all he could say to me was, "Hello, may I help you?" I knew I had to know all that he knew, to understand every history of his mind, but all that I could say was that I was looking for a spell book. At this point I hung my head low and felt like a great overwhelming sense of shame. He would surely see me as the novice I was, and throw me out. Instead, he simply gestured me to the back. He told me that a kid my age should be given the best magical teachings that one could receive. He took me to a dark lit room. I could smell the city of the outside world mixed with the monochrome light of the candles. It was as if I was walking into a portal. He then gestured me to a table behind a secret door. So very odd that he should have a secret door in a shop, but who was I to question a man who obviously knew such forbidden secrets? As he took me to this desk, he showed me a book that was bound in leather that I've never seen before. It was worn with age and looked as though it could speak agony if it could. I drooled to know what dark secrets lay inside. He handed me the book and said that there are things in this world that must be kept at bay. And sometimes it's best to see these things to understand that they bring no fortune for mankind. He told me that he saw great potential in me. Whether it was good or bad, it was up for me to decide. The last thing he breathed from that ancient sound box of his mouth was to understand that the darkness is real and the boogeyman are stronger than one thinks. I couldn't just sit there and stare into those eyes that would burn God's very soul. I rushed home. I couldn't wait to read the hidden manifestations that lay in this old tomb. I rushed past the drunken mess that lay on the floor as he always was. I almost stopped just to gloat with my eyes that I should no longer be subjugated to his torment. But that would only amuse him and anger me. I went to my room, and it was such a darkened place, yet the dark place was full of light. It kept the evil out. It reassured me that nothing could touch me. It's like hiding in plain sight. My mother always told me that if I couldn't see the evil things, they couldn't see me. It was a childish concept, but nevertheless it was one that stuck with me. I went to my desk, and it seemed for the longest time that I just stared at the face of the book. It was staring back, warning me to go no further. It taunted me as though I was just an ant to it. With all the strength I could gather, I forced myself to open the book. It was red ink, and full of an ancient writing. It looked to be Arabic, and it would take some time to translate, though I can make out just one phrase from my limited understandings of the old language. The title of the book was called Al-Azif, The Howling of Demons. I was tired from all the excitement of the day and decided to postpone any further studies of the tome. There was plenty of time to delve into its hidden secrets. That night I dreamt of worlds unheard of to me. It was in a far-off place that was dark at first, and then I heard the piping of something far away getting closer. And oh gods of old, it was horrible. It was as if every wild thing in existence was calling out to me. The sounds were of evil winds that whistled through creation, and it was as if the destroying it, as it was creating it. It was awful. I begged for it to stop, that haunting sound in the chaotic darkness. And in that moment the sound stopped, and I saw a light of spheres within spheres. They seemed to be coming and going into and out of existence, as though it was such a simple thing. It seemed alive. It was so horrible to me, as though every part of me was aching and wanting to die. And then it stopped shifting. It just stood there, ignoring my existence. Then I saw something horrible. It was a thing coming from the light. It was large and carried within its hands some form of musical pipes. It seemed to shift in all dimensions, as though it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. It was horrifying, and I was at the threshold of losing my very mind. And it came out of the darkness. Something came with it. In a moment's glance it appeared to be the man from the bookstore, and yet it was a million other things. They sat there staring into the nothing, the shifting one, its dark companion, and the spheres of light. They sat there and stared at me. Then as they looked upon me as one looks at a flower or an insect, the Dark One spoke. He told me that their names are impossible to pronounce, but they can be heard as certain tongues. He pointed to himself and said that he was Nyarlathotep, which made me shudder and lose my stomach at the very utterance of it. It was as if that name would break me. If I thought of it for very too long, it would just drive me insane. He then proceeded to point to the thing beside him as it sat on a throne holding its pipes. He told me that his name was Azathoth, that he was great and powerful, and created everything you could see. Once again the name drove me mad, and even more so that nothing was around me perplexed me that it could create nothing and it be a creation. Finally he had pointed behind me to the shifting spheres, and said that its name was Yog-Sothoth. It was the gate and the key, and he sits in front and behind the gate. That was the final name. It made me want no more. I begged to be set free, and as I said that, the idiot king, no, that idiot god Azathoth began to laugh. It was horrible. They all laughed at me as though I had a choice, as though it mattered to them at all. I was afraid, and it went beyond that, as though no matter what level of fear I had in the end, it didn't matter. Then I woke up. It was all a dream, and yet it was so real. I couldn't even begin to describe the horrific ideas that went in that dream. The words didn't exist to describe the level of fear I had. It didn't matter in the end. All that I know is that I would come to understand such power that I could take the darkness and make it something. The book is where I left it. It was still staring at me, still mocking me with its eyes. I began to take out all the translations of Arabic I had to understand a book. I had to make sense of it all. It took days. It took days to begin to translate it. But I didn't sleep in fear of those horrible dreams. If I only were to nod in Morpheus's direction, I began to hear the piping that would bring me out of my reverie. Oh God, that awful piping, creating the nothing. It was something that I could never understood. It was something that I could never understand. On the third day of translation, I came across a summoning that would allow me to speak the words of the great old gods. It called forth this Nullarathotep, and he would speak the grand word that would allow me to understand the language. It was something that I couldn't pass up. I would call on the old language to create a being to destroy these old gods, and bring back what little sanity I had left. It called for a sacrifice to be made. A human sacrifice. In that moment, my hopes of destroying these old ones was crushed. I would not condone such an evil just to destroy it. Later that evening, I stopped my translation to try to regain my mindset. My mind was lost to me, and I had to breathe in the air of reality before that infernal piping on my mind would take over. As I was about to scream, my incoherent father decided to stumble his way into my room. He was drunk, and smelt of whiskey and vermin. Oh, how I loathed him. I hated everything about him, from his disgusting demeanor to his unintelligent ways. He came to me breathing and angered. He told me that I was nothing, and that I was just something that destroyed his life. And then he spoke something that drove me to the edge. He told me that I was the reason my mother killed herself, that she couldn't handle the idea of raising such an urchin of a son. Out of anger I pushed him off the stairwell, severing the waste of life as death crept over him. That last thing he saw was my smile. Now I had my sacrifice, and the piping will soon stop. I took him to the empty basement and began to prepare him for the specifications of the old tome, severing the veins and the arteries, allowing the blood to flow into the ancient symbols. It was making art, and it was horrible. It was that creeping feeling of disgust that would drain you, but it had to be done. It had to stop that piping. I would soon know the ancient words to stop the piping. I put candles in the ancient ways and blessed everything in blood and bile. I stood there covered in that life blood, that life water. It was time. Finally, it was time. I began to chant the ancient name, Nullarathotep Noen Kamel Kalyazar Nerat Lonish Nyazong. I said it over and over and over, repeating those great and horrible words. The great ancient words brought down beyond the darkness, became darker and darker, and it was cold as the desert. I could feel the ancient sands whip my face. It was there in the middle of the elder sign that I saw the beast, the crawling chaos. It was him in his most hideous form. It was dark and writhing in and out of this world into the darkness that it came from. With him came that horrible piping, that sound that would drive the most sane man to his death. And here I was, facing the beast. I will destroy him with his own tongue. I will destroy them all and bring down their hideous creation of nothing. It was my time to put fear in their hearts. Forever they would hear my words echoing within them till they were driven mad by it all. The god was being forced by their own magic to appear before me. Finally, I was a great wizard. I could call forth the great demon gods. I was Solomon. I was John Dee, and I am a great wizard. This will be talked about for ages to come. How the great young wizard stopped the piping, how he brought the chaos to his knees. Yes, raise, you dark devil, tell me your secrets. Finally he was there in full form. A dark pharaoh, a blasphemous wind. He stood there in all his horrific glory. And I was going to be the one to bring him to his knees. I ordered him to tell me the word of understanding. I wanted to speak the words of the gods, and he will obey, for the magic forces him to do so. He has no choice but to obey me. His swirling darkness is all about me now. It covers me in my heart, and all I could hear was that chaotic corruption of music. That whistle beyond the darkness. It made just to destroy. It was every color but never beautiful. I need the word to make it stop. I need the word to make it all go away. Then, in a moment of silence, the Dark Master leaned in and whispered in my ear. Oh, heavens above, he whispered in my ear. It echoed in my brain. It was nothing at first. It was a word, a sound of consonants and vowels. It stayed there in my mind, as I went unblinking into a state of horror. He told me the word, and I had wished that he didn't. It was beyond more than any horror I have ever conceived. Then he laughed, and the pipes began. God, those infernal pipes. Please, by all things that is holy, stop those damn pipes. It echoed there in my mind as I lay on the blood-stained floor. My father now laid eviscerated along the ancient elder sign, his guts making up what was supposed to be an offering. As I laid there with no sanity left, I heard the chaos call forth a plethora of toads that began to engorge themselves what was left of my drunken father, now themselves becoming drunk from the eating of his liver. All I could do was watch, cry, and laugh at the horrible dark humor of it all. I was only a puppet to them, an idiot puppet for their idiot god. The pipes never stopped, and they never will. Later on, the authorities told me that I had murdered my father in a fit of insanity, and they had found me in the basement rolling what was left of his entrails. They found me guilty on an insanity plea, and now set in Arkham, waiting out this message. I'm now set in Arkham, writing out this message so that no other person would read from that dreaded tome. And please, if you hear the piping, just know that there is no hope, and to find a cliff with a shallow bay. Well, thanks for listening to a tale inspired by Lovecraft, and I hope you have a happy Halloween. If you liked the story, please like the video, and if you want more, please subscribe. If you have any comments, please leave them below. And once again, my name is Marcus Emmerich, and I'm an author. Thanks for watching.